Hello everyone, welcome back to another video in generic series. In today's session, we will learn about generic class, generic struct and generic enum in Swift. We will understand where they are useful, explore their real world use case and see how to implement them in real world project. And if you have not watched my previous videos on generic, I highly recommended checking it out first as it will make this topic much easier to understand. So let's get started. So first one we will discuss about generic class. Generic class is a blueprint for a reference type object that uses the placeholder type instead of the concrete data type. And to create the generic class, we need to add the placeholder type immediate after the class name and making it available to the all properties and functions inside the class. And the generic class is basically allow us to create a complex service layers or like the state managers and any functionalities which create once and reuse them across the app for different data models. This is a basic example of generic class. To make class to generic, we need to just add the type parameter immediate after the class name, and that type parameters we have to pass to all the functions where we need a data type. And this is how we can initialize the generic class with their desired data type. So in a first example I have create the string type generic class. In a second example create the integer type, and in the third type create the model type. So that one generic class can handle different data type. So this is a beauty of the generic code. So in the generic code, we don't have to explicitly type the concrete data type. The Swift automatically figure out data type for a particular class or to particular generic function. So here we don't have to explicitly type here this is a string, this is a int. Swift automatically figure out. So this feature is called the type inference. I hope you guys have a clear understanding of generic class. So now let's move to the generic struct. Generic struct is a lightweight value type blueprint that use the placeholder type instead of the concrete data type, and it allow us to create highly reusable data structures and models without duplicating the code. To create the generic struct, we need to add the placeholder type immediate after the struct name between the angular brackets same as the class. And we can use that placeholder type for the properties or the methods and return types. So this is a basic example of generic struct. So here use the placeholder type, and the content parameter use the placeholder type. And here the same struct model can handle the different data type string or int, rather to create the separate models for string or int. Now talk about the real use case of the generic struct. When we are building the app that fetches the list of the data like Instagram feeds, list of the products in e-commerce apps, or the search results. So backend servers almost never send all the data at once. Instead they break the data into the chunks and bundle it with the metadata, which tells us there are the more data to load. So instead of writing different pagination wrapper for like feed, for like notification commands and products and so on, so we can create a one generic struct for that. So let me show you with the example. I have created the mock data here, and this is how we can handle the repeated JSON API's data with the generic struct, and we can also use the type lies. So we can also use the type lysis so that the code would be the more readable, right? So far we have seen generic function, generic class, generic types, and generic struct. But generics are not limited to the functions, classes, or the struct. We can also use the generic with the enum. Generic enum use the placeholder type to store the changes inside its cases. So it allow enum to work with the different data type while maintaining the type safety. So to create the generic enum, add the placeholder type after generic name and pass that placeholder value to as any case of the associated value. Look into the example to understand the generic enum. So this is a basic example to understand the generic enum. So same as the class and the struct, we can create the generic enum with the placeholder immediate after the enum name, and pass the placeholder to associated to any case, as in this I have used for success. And here how we can use the enum for different cases. If you would like more practice with the generic code, struct, class, enum, so I will cover the several real world example in a dedicated practice video. Since this video is already quite long, so we will continue with those examples in the next part of the series. Thanks for watching. If you found this content helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more Swift and iOS development tutorial, and see you in the next video.